In 2015, OnePlus released a phone called the OnePlus X. I guess with the iPhone X, we could also call this the OnePlus X. But regardless, this was released after the OnePlus 2, offering us a compact version of the 2, of course with some downsides. But at the same time, some upsides. Now clearly this phone is not meant to be purchased today, but this video is more of a look at how far companies have evolved, this being OnePlus, as well as why they don't make compact flagship phones anymore, but rather budget devices. This is a reminder review of the OnePlus X, their first and only compact flagship phone. Now, you may argue that this is simply not true, that there are devices like the Nord that are compact flagship phones, but if you look at it, they're really just mid-range phones with a large design. This is actually a compact flagship. In every way, this is the smallest OnePlus phone ever created, but that isn't entirely a bad thing. Again, in 2021, these specs are not really usable, to be honest. We get a Snapdragon 801 processor with 3GB of RAM with a small 16GB of storage. This was actually the same as the OnePlus One, and this was actually released a little bit after the OnePlus 2. Sure, it doesn't sound good and the storage was low, but it was the only OnePlus phone to ever accept a memory card. So there's that. This phone was dual SIM as well, assuming that you didn't use that memory card slot. The processor was paired with a small 2525 mAh battery, which really wasn't the worst. It actually gave me a full day of use even in 2021, but in no way is this a battery champ. You get a micro USB charger on the bottom, which I personally haven't even reviewed a phone since like the Samsung S7 Edge that actually has the micro USB charger, so it's kind of interesting. Again, USB-C was just starting during this time, so this omission wasn't really a bad thing. This phone lacked NFC and obviously wireless charging, as well as water resistance, all of those not really being a big deal for the price range. We were also given a few LTE bands, literally 8 LTE bands, similar to how the Nord is with 5G. To be fair, the OnePlus One only had 7 LTE bands, so it's not really that big of a deal. Oddly enough, the OnePlus One had dual band Wi-Fi, while the X didn't, meaning that you only got 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. But there were some premium features that were thrown into this phone. To start, there was a 1080p 5-inch OLED display, which is surprising seeing that OnePlus wouldn't even put these into their phones until the following year. This was actually a nice addition, and sure, the screen wasn't the best, but for the price, it was actually really good. As for the frame of the phone, this was actually made out of metal, as well as glass obviously on the front, but on the back as well, the latter which we wouldn't see again until the OnePlus 6. Even with all of this, the phone only weighed 138 grams. On the left side, we get the alert slider, something that has followed pretty much every OnePlus, minus the cheaper Nords and the OnePlus One. There are some touch buttons on the bottom, but I personally turned these off. Also, they didn't light up on this phone for some reason. There's also an LED for notifications on the top, something that OnePlus kept for actually a really long time. I think they got rid of it on like the OnePlus 6 or the OnePlus 5T, one of those phones. There is only a single speaker on the bottom, with the top speaker being a simple earpiece, and there is a headset jack on the very top of the phone. Then we have the camera on the back, which was a simple 13 megapixel sensor, with the front one being an 8 megapixel sensor, both lacking optical image stabilization. The rear camera took decent shots, but this makes you remember what this price point of this phone is, as well as the video capabilities. Same goes for the front camera. Clearly, this is not a phone that you want to buy today, but this is a reminder of how devices were made. This was a compact flagship in the same way that the iPhone SE 2020 was made. Sure, it isn't perfect, and also we can't really even use it today. I mean, look at my phone. It has this weird glitch where the screen will just go on and off. Not really sure what's going on with that. I already changed the power button, still didn't fix the issue. And I'm not even running stock software, but rather Lineage OS 17.1. or Android 10. This phone is slow, the camera sucks, and the battery's not the best. In no way should you buy this phone, seeing that you can get similar or better performing devices at a cheaper or similar price, but to think that the price is what made this phone so appealing back in the day. This phone was $250 new. To compare, the OnePlus 2 launched at $330 for the 16GB version. Now this price difference is easy to achieve nowadays, but this is during the time where flagship phones on that year, like the iPhone 6s and the Samsung S6, were priced at $550 and $600 respectively. Without major price cutting in parts and profits, this pricing is something we won't ever be able to see again. Today, OnePlus is still a rising manufacturer in the grand scheme of things, but with the loss of LG, this phone is somewhat of a reminder that we do have the choice to allow budget flagship or compact flagship phones to exist. We just have to buy them and let the manufacturer know that. I am speaking in the US market because that's generally where the issues are, seeing that companies like Xiaomi are thriving even with their pledge to very minimal profit margins. There were some issues with this phone, and it wasn't really a lasting phone, seeing that it was pretty much obsolete software-wise in 2016. Yes, this is less than 1 year of official software updates, but it comes with that price tag. In comparison, the OnePlus 2 made it to 2017. Nowadays, OnePlus is a little bit better with software updates, but it still does come with that price point. They have to cut corners somehow, but luckily phones like this are welcomed by the custom operating system community, even though this phone is running a heavily outdated 32-bit processor. Overall, this is a review that I wanted to do. Pretty much, I wanted to just use this phone and let you guys know how I feel about it. And in short, this phone still works, but you definitely shouldn't buy one. I will probably end up keeping this phone, seeing that there are some issues with this phone, and it doesn't really allow me to sell it. So this phone will stay with me next to the OnePlus One that I got. But if you should take something from this video, which is kind of useless in a way, it's that compact flagship phones can still exist at reasonable prices, but only if we allow companies to do this, and only if we support them monetarily. Hopefully you learned something and enjoyed this video. This is Matt from Real World Review, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.